Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, August 16th, 2024. The Emperor has no clothes, a lesson about our income payroll tax system. The Emperor's New Clothes is a fairy tale written by Hans Christian Andersen, published in 1837. The story is about an emperor who is exceedingly vain and obsessed with his appearance, particularly his clothing. When two clothes weavers arrive at the emperor's court and claim that they can weave the finest clothes imaginable, but they're invisible to anyone who's unfit for their position or hopelessly stupid, the emperor is excited. Eager to flaunt these magical garments, the emperor commissions the weavers, who proceed to pretend to work on the looms, producing nothing at all. The emperor's ministers, and eventually the emperor himself, visits the weavers and, fearing to be seen as unfit or stupid, pretend to see the non-existent clothes. Eager to show off his new clothes, the emperor has a formal parade in his new clothes. For a time, all the parade observers, eager to show that they weren't stupid, exclaimed about how wonderful the emperor's new clothes seemed. However, the ruse was exposed when a child pointed out to his mother that the emperor wasn't wearing anything at all. Hearing the child, others began to say the same thing, and the embarrassed emperor was hurried back to his castle. So what does this fairy tale have to do with reform of the U.S. tax system? Since 2013, the elites have told the American people that only people who are unfit for their position or hopelessly stupid question the logic and benefits of a tax system that tells people when they overpay their taxes and eventually get their change back, that change is actually a gift from the government for which they should be grateful. That tells people that an impossibly complicated tax system that harms American competitiveness in the world market and costs American jobs is actually a good thing because it's the only way to make it fair. That tells people that the government is entitled to know the intimate details of everyone's personal finances and that it's their patriotic duty to fill out forms that are so onerous and so complicated that most people have to hire professional help to do it, and that assures people that their private personal data is safe, even though there have been numerous cases where confidential data was leaked by someone pushing a political agenda. In conclusion, Andersen's fairy tale serves as a reminder of the importance of critical thinking and the courage to speak the truth. The elites, who reprimand and belittle us for seeking real tax reform, are desperately afraid that they will be exposed not as the intellectually superior beings they claim to be, but as scared little people who are wearing no clothes. Americans have always been proud of the fact that we, as a nation, demand the truth from our leaders. It's time we demand the truth about our failed income payroll tax system and demand real reform. Adopt the fair tax. The fair tax is so simple everyone can understand it and comply with it without having to hire expensive professional help. The fair tax shows the true cost of the federal government on every retail receipt, so all of us can understand how much we're paying and determine if the benefits we're receiving are worth the cost. It helps U.S. companies compete with foreign competitors and not move overseas. Keeps jobs in the United States rather than exporting them to other countries. The fair tax permanently establishes the solvency of Social Security and Medicare. It eliminates special treatment for any group of taxpayers, benefits lower income groups more than the present income payroll tax system, and is fair. The fair tax eliminates the need to file tax returns. It eliminates the need for the IRS. It allows each of us, not the elites and their minions, to determine the amount of federal tax we pay. And finally, the fair tax is the largest transfer of power from D.C. to the people since the Constitution was adopted. Now, D.C. is ignoring the one real solution that allows us to remain citizens and not subjects, the fair tax. The fair tax is simple, it's non-invasive, but most of all, it works. The American people will overwhelmingly support the fair tax if they're given the chance, and all of us will benefit from its enactment. The solution? Pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Now, there's going to be a vote on the fair tax in the House of Representatives. We now have the opportunity to force all members of the House to show where they stand. They can vote for the president income payroll tax system, or they can vote for the fair tax. They can support the corrupt income tax in the IRS, or they can vote to eliminate it. It can't be any simpler than that. They can continue to hide the true cost of their government, or they can pass the fair tax and show everyone the true cost of government on every retail receipt. And finally, they can support the largest transfer of power from government to the people, the fair tax, or they can vote against it. Now, if members think the fair tax needs to be amended to address a problem, they can propose the change. Don't let them get away with rejecting the entire bill because it has a perceived flaw that can be easily addressed, and if it's really a flaw, corrected in the final bill. And don't think for an instant there aren't any flaws in the income tax. Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.